Welcome to the TMRN Time Monk Radio Network. I'm Jules, and today is the 29th of April 2011. Today we have Dr. Luis Turi, author, renowned astropsychologist, hypnotherapist, and well-known forecaster who uses a unique technique he derived from Nostradamus. Dr. Turi's website is drturi.com. Luis, salut, welcome to the WebBot Forum Roundtable.
Thank you very much for inviting me, guys. It's an honor to be with you today.
Well, thank you. The WebBot Forum administrator is Fox, and today he will be doing the recording and technical support of the show. Several members of the forum were kind enough to join us tonight. They include moderators Lolly and Sandra, and members Free Spirit and Patrick. Unable to join us tonight are members Lua from Colorado and EasyChair. For listeners, this interview... Sorry, Dr. Turi, you had something to say?
This is quite a lot of people, and that's going to make the show very interesting. All right, I'm sorry about that. Just keep going.
That's fine. I can feel the energy already. For listeners, this interview will assume you have a fairly good understanding of Dr. Turi's work. If you are new to Dr. Turi, we advise you go to his website at drturi.com and read his materials there, and go to YouTube and listen to his numerous interviews that will explain an introduction on who this man is. Here at the WebBot Forum, we prefer to go straight to the heart of the interview, pun intended. The audio and video for this interview will be available on YouTube for free and on the WebBot Forum channel on webbotforum.com. With that said, our first question comes from Lolly.
Hi, Dr. Turi.
Hello, Lolly.
As a first question, we wanted to know what your opinion was of the WebBots. Cliff's work is based on the premise that all humans are psychic and that these psychic impressions leak out in our everyday lives in many ways. From the actions we take, through our body gestures, and through the words we use in conversation, verbally, and in written form. What do you think of this premise? Go ahead.
And I agree entirely. As a matter of fact, you can stimulate your subconscious to talk to you personally. And in my case, as soon as I put my t-shirt upside down, you can be sure if the moon is waxing, within the next few hours, I'm going to get a terrific positive news. And if I put my t-shirt upside down and the moon is waning, something pretty drastic would take place. And just yesterday morning, I put my t-shirt upside down and I was on the way to the lake. I didn't listen to my intuition. I didn't listen to the omens, which I teach my student, of course. And when I tried to start my boat, the battery was dead, so no problem. I changed the battery, and then we arrived to the lake, and everything was fine. Everything was beyond wonderful until, of course, my wife drove the boat and hit a rock and messed up the prop. That was a short journey. So when it comes to omens, when it comes to being psychic, 100% I agree with the philosophy.
The philosophy that everyone is psychic and we leak it out whether we're aware of it or not.
Indeed. It's a matter of training. Being a clinical hypnotherapist, I'm a little bit more sensitive to the subconscious, specifically the superconscious in time and space, which is obviously responsible for whatever transpires on this dense physical world.
Okay. So being a forecaster yourself, if you've read Cliff's articles and reports, what do you think of his forecasts?
Well, again, I judge people through their UCI, and that means a unique celestial identity. And I do not judge people through the clothes they wear, if I may use that word. If you do have Cliff date of birth, or at least the month he was born, that would allow me to put my antenna, so to speak, and look at him with my third eyes, if I again may use that word. Having myself that very weird, unique celestial identity, my reality is like yours, my own, so to speak, and I can only use my expertise to give a correct assessment and a correct judgment as far as people values are in terms of their predictive gift. I did not have time. I'm so sorry I'm so busy also to investigate Cliff. But if you give me some feedback, who Cliff is and what he does, remember, I'm so very busy and I apologize. It's very unprofessional for me, but didn't spend no time at all investigating Cliff or even your website for that matter. And that's because I got so many things to do. But if you know Cliff months of birth, that would just open the door widely to me. And from there, I can make a correct assessment to his UCI.
I don't happen to know his birth date. Sorry, but thank you.
No, that's okay. You know, this everybody uses is tools in order to make a judgment. When, for example, when the Bible says men were made equal, I agree with that. When it comes to DNA on the physical level, we all are human. We're all made equal. But when it comes to the spirits, that's a very different situation. You will never think and talk like your mother, your father, or your child. As a matter of fact, you're connected DNA-wise 100%, but on the scheme, on the realm of the spirit, you are a total strangers to your closest family member, because you will never behave, think, talk, create the same way than any one of them. Do I make sense, Lolly?
Yes, you do.
Okay.
Yes, you do. So are you saying that for example, with Cliff's reports, never mind. That's fine.
I could not put a judgment on Cliff work because I lack the element number one. But I trust you. I mean, you guys have been dealing with Cliff with many, probably for a very long time. Am I correct?
Yes.
So you have a time to actually appreciate his gift and to, for sure, test his values. So I trust you to your judgment that Cliff is definitely a very gifted person. But to me, I don't know Cliff, so I'm so sorry. I wish I had, and I'm going to repair that. I'm definitely going to go and check Cliff, because now you stir my curiosity, because there is somebody out there which is probably doing the same or close doing to what I do. Is it a forecaster? Does he predict earthquakes? Could you feed me some information on Cliff, please?
Yes, he does. Sorry, go ahead, Jules.
Yeah. So Dr. Turi, basically, Cliff is if you've heard of the web bots, he's the one that creates a program that looks at trying to interpret the psychic information that leaks out on people on the internet and makes forecasts. But the beauty of this interview, I guess, Dr. Turi, is that we'll get your forecast later, and then we can then match it with Cliff's. And again, nobody has the right answers. We all have to look at different sources of information.
Indeed. I always teach my students that there is million roads that leads to Rome, and mine is just one single road. That's it. Correct. There is other roads out there, and then nobody owns the real truth. We're all looking for it. That's basically what it comes down to it. And as far as I'm concerned, I am very confident, and you could probably feel that through my words, because my past has proven me right pretty much all the time. So that is something, of course, you will find out once you get to know the dates that I have for you. Predictions.
Fantastic. Thank you, Luis. Luis, we have broken down the questions into different sections tonight. The first section is alchemy, astrology, and cosmic consciousness. The first set of 3 questions is from Free Spirit.
Okay.
Bonjour, Dr. Turi. Comment allez-vous?
Très bien, Monsieur Free Spirit. I didn't know you speak French.
Les petites.
Un petit peu.
First, what I'd like to ask you is, first of all, I'm a cancer survivor as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard in one of your interviews that you had quite a revelation about God.
Indeed.
Going through that process. And I would like you to explain to us what your perception of God was before the cancer and after the cancer, and how that affected your skills as an astropsychologist and a magi?
Well, first of all, when I was touring in Thailand and coming back to my hotel room and finding that I had some blood in the bathroom, I got really, really scared. So I thought, well, I'm in Thailand, I might as well go and get checked. So I went to the hospital, and that's where they find out that I had colon cancer. That was the most incredible, the most depressive, the most shocking news anybody can have, because it forces you to make you aware of your mortality. So I'm an extraordinarily intellectual person. I'm not a psychic. I'm more of a scientist than a psychic per se. Not that I deny it, but I don't understand it, put it this way. So my connection with God was very, very remote, put it this way. But when you are in thousands upon thousands of miles away from your family, from your wife, from your friends, you're all alone in a bedroom, and you are waiting for a result to find out if that cancer is generalized, which means you only have a few months to live. It is very, very much a wake-up call to your mortality, and it forces you to connect with God. So I was forced literally to connect with God, but I didn't know how, because I was not raised religiously. My parents were not religious. They always told me, you will find God in time. So I was very depressed, and I was crying, and I already had accepted death per se. And I was mad because I had so many plans, so many dreams, so many goals to reach, and there I was. I might be dead in a few months from now. So I was in the street of Bangkok, and trust me, this is a very, very busy, noisy city. And I was walking in the street, and the Thailandese have something that they build, like a little house outside of their houses, and they burn incense and they put flowers, and it's their religious way of connecting with the divine. So I didn't know better. That was the only thing that spiritually was acceptable for me to connect with myself and God. So I went there, and then I went there, and all of a sudden everything went quiet in the middle of the street. Everything went quiet, and there was cars going everywhere. And then I was there, and I was, God, please, I don't know who you are. I don't know why, God, I'm praying. I don't know who you are, but please, 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 keep me alive. Keep me alive. And I got so many things to do. I just don't want to die. No, that would be too much pain for all the people that rely on me, those people that are waiting for me, my student, my patient, my clients, my friends, my family. Please. I was really, really emotional and crying and very intense. And then that was it. And then when I came back to the hospital a few days later, they told me, Dr. Turi, we have spent the best of our technology to find everything wrong with you. And apparently, it seems that after the surgery, there is no trace of cancer, but you could really, you need one more test. One more test, and that will tell us after the surgery, at the end of your colon, if you still have some cancer cells, and after that you'll be free. So I finally, after a month later and many, many pounds lost later, I called my wife and I told her, honey, you have to let everybody know that I had cancer and to pray for me. And my God, those prayers came to me like a wild train. And 1 month after my surgery, I was on the top of my house, cutting trees, running with my dogs. And that made me understand the power of the prayer. That made me understand why Congresswoman Gifford, who was shot in the head, surprised everybody, especially her doctors, by the miraculous recovery she went through. So that made me aware that praying stimulates the subconscious and the superconscious, for the lack of word, God, and that powerful energy will heal you, because the future being the reincarnation of the thought are things that can alter the atomic structure of your body and get rid of a cancer. And that is my answer to you.
Well, coming through that revelation, how did that affect your skills as far as reading as an astropsychologist and a magi since then?
Well, I begin to work a little bit more on the supra-conscious in time and space, and become much more perceptive and sensitive. For example, if I was to ask you to tell me what was whatever you're looking at, for example, the screen of your computer, if I was to ask you what was that screen 50 years ago, 100 years ago, then we're going to push it further down the line. If I was going to ask you what was the very city you live in 1,000 or 2,000 years ago, you'd say nothing. And that reinforced my theory that the future is the reincarnation of the thought. And as the Bible said, we have been made in the image of God. And that means we like it or not, we know it or not, we accept it or not, we have been granted the same creative power than our Creator. And that's why it's so very important to never feed evil with negative thoughts and be constantly positive, so that you can manipulate that superconscious at your advantage. Manipulate is not the word that you can use, if you allowed to perceive my information, of course, and my teaching, to use that incredible, endless, infinite power to bring about every single thing that you want, not just the screen of a computer or your wishes, but also heal your body, your mind, and your soul.
Do you think that's made you more sensitive to be able to connect and reach out to others?
Oh, indeed. I used to be pretty wild and pretty direct. I used to tell people exactly what it is without any concern, not realizing that like me, they are a human being that tomorrow could be feeling as low and as vulnerable as I felt when I was in Thailand, not knowing if I was going to be spared. So he made me much more humble. He connected me. That experience connected me with God and with the forces of the divine, and definitely shoot my intuition up to the roof.
So you do see God as a he?
I see God as an energy. Again, you were made in the image of God, so that means you were created with the image. And if I take a picture of you and a picture of God and shuffle the images, I would not know who is who at the end. So that made me realize that we are God in training on this dense physical world, and we are learning to handle the creative forces for the well-being of humanity as a whole. Of course, something that is not necessarily either understood or accepted by traditional religious values, but that you're asking me, so I'm telling you, we are God in training on this dense physical world, yes.
So you do see him as a he, as a male entity?
In time and space, there is no gender, there is no time, there is no space. It's omnipresent. It's very hard to put your hand in describing the divine. So I could say it depends on how you want to perceive it, but it's more of something that you cannot reach, you cannot touch, you cannot comprehend, but you can still use at your advantage. But that is
it's like a one consciousness.
Yeah, if you allowed, if you raise your cosmic consciousness, if you raise your connection with God and the divine, and if you raise your connection with his tools, with his celestial design, then you will come to this appreciation, put it this way.
No, I thank you for that. I wanted to clear it up only because, people often use he just as social conditioning.
Of
And
course.
so I really didn't get, right, I didn't get the impression that that's really how you felt. So I wanted to clear that up in the interview.
You bet. You
Um,
bet. That was
Now,
that.
I
that
know you state,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, no. This is a very interesting question that never been asked before, and you gave me an opportunity to really dig deeper inside of me, to confirm my connection with God and the divine, and that's wonderful.
Well, let's take it a little deeper. I understand that you consider yourself a magi or a magician. And being one of those, I'm sure that you're aware there of the many arts and tools of alchemy that are available to the practitioner. The people on the round table here were very aware of the collection of pictures that you have posted on your website, the crystal ball and some other items. So we were wondering, when you do your forecast, if you use any particular tools, and more specifically, do you scry? Is scrying one of the tools that you use to do your forecast?
Okay, first of all, as far as the tools you've seen, the crystals and the pendulum and all the good stuff that I have in my healing room, these are used on the medical aspect of astral psychology, because certain parts of the body are controlled by certain sign, starting with Aries, which is the head, down to Taurus, the neck, Gemini, which is the lungs and the arms, and then Love, which is Leo, the heart, and then the food insecurity, which is Cancer, down to the elimination principle, which is Virgo and your intestines, and then of course the reproductive area, which is Scorpio, down to Pisces, which supports the body. Each part of this body vibrates at a certain speed that can be traced with specific crystals, specific ways, and it's a study that I teach my students. So that it is. But as far as predictions are concerned, while I was born in the south of France, in Provence, like Nostradamus, I have nothing to do with the great prophet myself. I was just born under the same stars, and that may have, led me to study before his house was turned into a museum, and look and then maybe take a few things personal from Nostradamus, and the curse is now with me, obviously. But in true reality, I have designed a software with the help of Alaran software that retraces the way of doing and reading astrology. Modern astrology is overloaded with mathematical jargon, and astrology is an art. The fact of the matter is Nostradamus, which happens to be the most respected visionary, the most respected accurate prophets of all time, didn't have a watch or a computer. He used symbolism, he used intuition, he used the sign, and this is what I did. I'm using that spiritual values, that side of the art, because astrology is an art, and I leave the mathematics to the software that is taking care of everything. But the software has nothing to do, basically, with the regular software. For example, if you look at any calendar right now, the planet Mercury is in its direct motions. While in my work, Mercury is still retrograde, and the fact of the matter is the launch of the shuttle today was rescheduled, and that tells you again that you have to look at the fact and not at the number. People tend to get lost in the codification of thought. They tend to get lost into the tree, missing the entire picture. So when I do predictions, I'm looking at my software. When I do a reading for a person, I'm looking at every single area, knowing that, of course, the 12 signs of the zodiac represent the 12 months of the year, the 12 hours of the day, the 12 apostles, the 12 saints, the 12 jury, the 12 tribe of Israel. So there is that magical number 12 of the year 2012 that comes into play, but it's far from being mathematical. So when you look at it, astrology or modern astrology as practiced today is more astronomy. I remember when I taught at the American Association of Astrology a few times in Florida, I was amazed at all these people looking at a bunch of maps and numbers. I said, that's not astrology. I think Nostradamus would be going crazy if he was looking at those so-called famed astrologer teaching a bunch of people the ancient arts. So that's my perception. So again, when I do prediction, I am able, because of my UCI, my unique celestial identity, to locate the planets. Then from there, with my third eye, my perceptive gift, I managed to enter the archetypal realm of consciousness, so to speak, and I translate that into quatrains, I translate that into keywords, and give very specific date for specific happenings that have proven so far to be quite accurate.
So, when in relation to your alchemy, you're saying that you use that more specifically for healings?
Indeed. Meantime, you can use, you could use also what do you call that? Talisman. I recall when I was in England, I had this friend of mine. He was not exactly Mr. Attractive, and he was kind of upset because he saw me with quite a few different girls when I was training at the Royal School of Music in London, and he says, "Louis, what do you do? How do you do it?" And I asked for his date of birth, and he was born in May. I thought, okay, I tell you what, intuitively I channeled the information that I should make this friend of mine a talisman that would compensate his fifth house lacking the seat of attraction between human beings. So Taurus is ruled by Venus, which is the goddess of love and beauty. Venus metal is copper, or the color you want to gain when you sit on the sun. You want to be nice tan, you want to get that copper tan. Okay, Charles Bronson is overloaded with his Venusian magnetism. So what I did, I gathered some copper, I waited for Venus to be proeminent, I waited for a waxing moon, and when all the stars were in good pattern, I melted the copper into the form of a heart. Okay, and I gave it to him. I captivated the celestial energy into this talisman, and I gave it to my friend. And you could be sure that he scored after that. You can manipulate the atomic structure of absolutely anything that if you know where it is and what's lacking. Of course, in the old days, they have tried to turn steel into gold and you still did not figure it out. That might be a little bit more complicated. But as far as offering a friend of mine more magnetism and rebuild his fifth house, which is the seat of attraction between human beings, I did 100% success on that one.
Thank you. Okay, the next question is from a forum member, Lua. Let me just see here. Sandra's not available at the moment, so I'll ask it on her behalf.
Okay.
Her question, Dr. Turi, to you is, I do not know very much about astrology, just the amount needed to know that I'm a Taurus, and that means I am somewhat bullheaded and want to create a nest to the earth. I understand that you use a form of astrology integrated with other methods for a basis for your predictions, and I would like to know how you interpret the placement of star positions to arrive at a specific interpretation as earthquakes or cataclysmic events. Can you explain briefly how the stars and the moon affect events as if you're talking to a relative novice on the subject?
Okay, well, let's start with the moon, for example. I'm sure you heard of a farmer's almanac. The farmers do not plant when they feel like. And even though our infantile science is negating the power of the moon, without the moon gravitational forces, there would be no tide. The twice daily tide would not exist. And I'm not saying that we are potatoes, but you might find it difficult in time of a full moon to put your ring, and you will understand the subconscious word of being moody, lunatic, or crabby, which is in reference to somebody born in July, or the power of the moon upon water signs. Now, in terms of doing earthquake predictions, again, I've used my software and I'm looking for a planet called Uranus. And when Uranus, which happens to be the planet of sudden release of energy, when this planet is proeminent, it allowed me to inarguably predict the two tsunamis that took place in Asia, one in Japan and one in Thailand. So you got a moonic window, which are controlled by the moon and create a different set of news. Then you have the uranic window, which is the sudden release of energy that produce explosions or natural disaster or volcanic eruption and large earthquakes. Then you have the plutonic window. These are extraordinarily dangerous because they relate to terrorism, to the police. Each time a police officer gets shot, you can be sure this window is proeminent. And I have tried for years to reach the law enforcement executive, trying to explain to them how important it would be for the police academy to teach those windows to the cops, so this way they would be back home safe and sound. But they didn't hear me so far, and so is NASA. Never heard me when I begged them not to send a shuttle on a negative windows and producing the deaths of 7 astronauts, and they're doing it again. Luckily, right now they are doing it the same thing. They want to send the shuttle. They are not listening to the omens. The first omen was that there was a lot of ice before the shuttle took off and exploded. 2 or 3 times they had to replan to launch the shuttle because Mercury was retrograde, exactly like now. They don't pay attention to the omens, and I have on my website asked everybody to pray and help me to stop the shuttle being launched before next new moon, and it seems to have worked so far because they are rescheduling the launch. There are also the moonic windows, and these are the windows that usually forces people to relocate again due to natural disaster. And I believe Mike, my pit bull, which I apologize to everybody about Mike. Mike is extraordinarily protective. He's a student, but he's a kid with a mind of his own, very, very protective. And I believe he told me he posted the next SOS windows that I generated for May, and that will give the opportunity for your audience and for WebBot to check on my predictive values.
We did see that. Thank you. The next question we have is a follow-up from Sandra.
Okay.
Okay, Sandra, I think she's just having some technical difficulties at the moment. What I'll do is I'll ask the question for her.
You bet.
This question is from Sandra. Are you on the line now?
I am for the moment. We'll see how long it lasts.
Let's hope this Mercury retrograde will leave you alone long enough to finish that conversation. Go ahead, honey.
Well, I do appreciate your information because I was curious about your Mercury retrograde being different than what I'd researched myself. I have a follow-up question from one of our forum members named Sag Moon, which gives you probably a little astrological information on the person.
Yes, Sag Moon, yes. That tells me a lot already. I can already tell you. You just hold on to your question because I channel immediately when something connects to the stars. Sag Moon has a lot of past life with the Mayan, the Incas, and the Sumerian. He has a tremendous past life with the Indians, and I don't know him from Adam or Eve, but it's probably a very highly spiritual person. Okay, keep going, please.
Well, here's the question. What was written is, you use the term astropsychologist to describe yourself, and the quote from your website says, "No, I am not a psychic, but an astropsychologist,
Correct.
And all that I do is real and based on over 35 years of strenuous research, end of quote.
Yes.
The question is, how does one become or attain a title such as an astropsychologist, which seems to imply an educational or clinical background in psychology?
Well, basically, the best way to do is to become one of my students. I teach live courses, and that's 7 or 8 hours a day, non-stop for at least a week. Or you could take the course, the home course, and read all the books and digest the 16 CD, all the DVDs, and get to your questionnaire and answer, and then you graduate, basically. But one has to understand that I am not a psychic, and I do not predict anything. That's very crucial that you understand that. You and I know very well that nature has a very specific pattern. The seasons are coming back. History tends to repeat itself, and so are the news. That's where I did create those specific 4 windows, the Uranic, Moonic, Plutonic windows, those 3 set windows, which I wouldn't say embellish, but help those that are highly spiritual to perceive my message with the quatrain, which are written in a Nostradamus way, for those born with a highly spiritual Pisces or Cancer or Scorpio Mercury. And the keywords are for those who have more of a logistic approach to life, those that have a rational, earthy, down-to-earth, practical mind. So I'm trying to reach both those that are highly spiritual and those that you may classify either as scientists or skeptics. And of course, by giving the date, anybody can trace it from when I first started in 1991 to do this work. So become a student. That's the best way to learn, and anyone can do it, mostly because there is no mathematics involved. If you are particularly intuitive, you will become a very, very proficient astropsychologist, because metaphor, intuition, and science are primarily used once you understand the structure of the housing system. Do I make sense to you?
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Turi. I'm sure Sag Moon will appreciate your information on her chart, and I have to admit I appreciate it too as another Sagittarius moon, and I do appreciate your answer.
Thank you so much, Sandra. And then remember what I teach my students: a magnet will not attract a piece of wood. People can only relate to me because of their education, their intelligence, their experiences, but most of all because of their stars, or what I call their UCI. Again, it's something that you have to keep in consideration.
Thank you, Sandra. Thank you, Dr. Turi. The next question comes from Lolly.
Okay, Lolly, I'm all ears for you.
Can you explain for us in layman's terms what you mean by the cosmic code and universal cosmic consciousness and the individual code that you frequently refer to?
Okay. The cosmic code is nothing else than God's manifestation. That's why the Bible says, I will talk to you, you won't hear me. I will present myself to you, you won't see me. One has to raise his cosmic consciousness, or enter the intuitional domain, or understand the very word understand. If you want to build something on top of your house, you have to go above, and you have to look, design it, see it, understand it. Then you have to go under to see how it's going to stand. So if you go into God's creation, the cosmic code, and you see how you stand under, He will give you more cosmic consciousness. Is that clear? Clear enough?
Yes. Is it another way to describe that, the divine blueprint? I've heard you use that phrase before. Is that?
Well, yes. Every one of us has been, and again, in lack of words, I'm using the term computerized. You have been computerized. because of your karma. The amount of work you have done in previous past life will become your gift. You ain't gonna be teaching Mozart or Beethoven to play piano. At a very early age, they were already musical geniuses. If somebody has been working in mathematics many previous past life, at the age of 12 or 13 years old in this current reincarnation, this child will be a mathematical genius. So for every action, there is an equal reaction. So if you put a very large amount of effort, or if you throw something up, you could be sure it will come down to you. That's called karma. So you have been computerized by those stars. They speak between themselves in a way that affect your mind. Your mind is nothing else than a computer that is set, a flesh, meat, and blood computer that is set to react to an outside stimulus, which means there is no difference between your brain or the one of Einstein, mine, or a killer. It's exactly the same weight, the same function, even the same wiring. What's different is the outside program that I call the UCI, or Unique Celestial Identity. And in the future, when astropsychology will finally be accepted as a solid, trustworthy discipline in our college universities, people, especially the teachers, will know immediately how a person is set to respond to certain type of information. And this is why prior to the show, I have asked, and I thank all of you for that, to give me the month of your birth, which allows me to connect to your third house, which is the way you think, the way you talk, the way you perceive information, or even generate information. So that's your critical thinking. So looking at it, when cosmic consciousness is reinstated and God tools finally understood and used appropriately, the judgment between each human being will not be based upon human five small senses and shortcomings, which happen to be part of side and half of the mixture. So you'll be less judgmental, you'll be more objective, and you will realize why this person likes politics and why this one can't stand it, why this person is a fantastic artist, and when this one cannot even carry a tune in a bucket. You would understand the human differences, and you would adapt the teaching in relationships to the UCI of a person. The sad reality is our current educational system keep firing teachers non-stop, hiding behind their own ignorance and stupidity of God's rules. And that's where the problem is. So once everything is back in place, and work in harmony with God's creation, or the stars for that matter, then his world will definitely be in a much happier, safer place.
Well, thank you for that. That would be good. So what's the essential difference then between cosmic consciousness and imagination?
That's again a very, very sophisticated question. Imagination can get very wild. Usually it's coming from your early experiences. So you can have a set of twins, for example. Both of them have the same UCI. They were born pretty much at the same time, and they will display and feed each other for the rest of their life. They'll be pretty much the same. However, the difference will be when one of the twins is inside of the house celebrating his birthday with music and cake and dance and love, while his brother is stuck outside fighting with a bunch of people that corner him and want to take his watch away. So that will nurture a set of fears that will steer and stimulate his imagination on the negative side. But without imagination, there is no room for exploration. Imagination and curiosity are brothers and sisters in my world, and that's what leads people to gain cosmic consciousness. You have to be curious. You have to challenge yourself to think out of the box, and even if you don't understand someone, you have to give him a chance to walk in his moccasin. You have to walk his shoes and do your homework before you put a judgment on anyone. I have learned to do that the hard way myself.
Thanks. Another question from forum member Saj Moon. What specific practices or studies have most assisted you in attaining this cosmic consciousness state?
First of all, as I said earlier, the sad reality is even though that humans are very progressive and there is absolutely no limitation and anyone can do what I can do with the good teachers, there are people that are born with the gift. There are no schools, university that will produce Einstein. Period. There is a big difference between education and intelligence. If you are spending a lot of life, in the case of Sajmun, with the Mayan, the Incas, and the Sumerian, you obviously know that all these disappeared civilizations were master in understanding the cosmic code, and all of them were into the stars. So Sajmun has already the ingredient needed in his own natal UCI to be interested and to evolve into full cosmic consciousness, but maybe he should cast aside the modern approach of astrology, which forces him into the trees and miss the forest. He needs to develop more objectivity and being taught to use the sign and let them speak to him like when he was a wise Indian walking and talking in 2 or 3 moons. This is pretty deep stuff, and I'm sure if he could hear me, he would, and he probably will in your archive. There is an affinity with this gentleman that I'm connecting with, because he is an old soul. I feel it.
Thank you. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Patrick, you have a question for Dr. Turi.
Yes, Dr. Turi, good evening.
Good evening, Patrick.
In many interviews, you mentioned that you've received downloads, and I've heard a number of other Gnostics and historical figures receiving information from a spiritual source. You've also alluded to channeling. Can you describe your download experience for us and explain the difference between what you understand as your channeling information?
Okay, well, this is again a very peculiar question, because it is a very, very personal experience. And when you approach the UFO phenomenon, it raises a red light right away, because they could think, whatever happened to me is made up for a movie that I'm writing for Hollywood. And the fact of the matter, it's very, very real. I have been, as I said earlier, a magnet will not attract a piece of wood. My chart, my astrological chart, my UCI, repeat, unique celestial identity, is overloaded with a planet called Uranus. Uranus is called in Greek mythology the Lord of the Sky, and Uranus was the New Age movement. Uranus was computers and technology, the future of mankind, the genius of humanity. Uranus was also the real phenomenon of UFOs. So I vibrate at that level, and at a very early age, 6 years old to be precise, I start to get those UFOs experience and abduction. And again, when I'm talking about UFOs experience and abduction, I'm not talking about a walking in the light in the sky. I'm talking about a flying saucer suspended 30 feet above my head. And I'm talking about extraterrestrial, that I'm talking like I would be talking to any human being. And in August 11, 2011, 2001, I believe, it's when I channel, I have a problem to go down to the dates, 1981, 1991. Yes, 1991, 10 years apart. For my third one, my wife and I, we were abducted above Los Angeles, and we had like 90 miles taken away from us, and that's where I saw her laying down on the table, and they took our child. They took the fetus for their specific purpose. Of course, they seem to be interested in Dr. Turi's DNA, but most of all, they also have downloaded. When I came into this little room, like a cast, like a helmet came down from the roof of the saucer and downloaded me the information and the working of the planet in our very solar system. So the questions of where the moon come from, what is the purpose of Jupiter, so many questions that I had no answer, it came to be a reality. And the experience was so shocking that when I came home, I couldn't help myself to draw in every room of my house all sorts of symbols. I couldn't help myself, and that's where basically I started my career. But I have to mention that anyone has the right to be skeptical when it comes to the UFO dilemma, because it is a very, very personal experience. And in my case, I have better thing to do than to make up stories of such nature.
Well, I appreciate your candor. I think we have some additional questions later on. For right now, I have a question about moon cycles. I appreciate your discussion of that and its significance with the Farmer's Almanac, but I still don't understand from your explanations of the dragon and what that is exactly. I believe it's the moon or part of the moon cycle.
Go ahead.
Can you give a brief description of that and how the tail and head apply?
Yeah, sure. The south and north node of the moon are called the head and the tail of the dragon. But there is more to it. To me, from what I have gathered and downloaded, it's coming from the constellation of Draco, which is of fishes, or the serpent, so to speak, or the 13th sign, which our infantile science is constantly discovering new planets. This is like Christopher Columbus discovering America. It's always been there, put it this way. But the dragon's tail is the area of your chart which is a representation of all that you have been, where you have been, all your gifts. It's on your tail. And regardless of the amount of money and effort, education you put on your tail, it cannot be productive for you, and it may even cost your life. While the head is totally the opposite, it's the gold mine. And I reinforce this theory when our Congresswoman Gifford was shot. I don't know if you remember. There were a little girl involved, Christina, and the school boards managed to get this little girl to get closer to the Congresswoman, not knowing that in million years you would never do that. Because Christina was born with the tail of the dragon into the sign of Capricorn that regulates the field of politics. So getting into politics is bringing her exactly on the tail of the dragon that snapped her away. But again, my thinking, my vision, my mental process is so unique, so different, so advanced than traditional accepted scientific discipline that a lot of people may just, think I'm another Mrs. Clare or Sylvia Brown out there and not a scientist. And that's where they're very wrong. So you want to put your energies on your head of the dragon. Okay, the year you were born will tell you the natal dragon. Of course, you have also a hidden dragon, but unless you understand the dynamics of astropsychology, I cannot even approach that. You could also educate yourself on the dragon by reading one of my books called The Power of the Dragon. It's over 525 pages of incredible information that would explain how the dragon brought Hitler to to what he was and what he did, as much as many serial killers, why Nostradamus or Einstein became Einstein or Nostradamus. Let me give you this quick information that will prove my claim if you happen to read my book or maybe become a student of mine in the future. Nostradamus, Edgar Cayce, Madame Blavatsky. Those are the three top prophets, and those three people were born, the three of them, with the same dragon into the sign of Pisces. Knowing that Pisces is controlled by Neptune, Neptune rules the subconscious, premonition, astral traveling, spirituality to the extreme. It is not an accident for those three people to have accomplished what they did. And I'm giving you just one information, of course, but there is so many people that are not touching. They are not using their dragon. And that could mean the difference between being very successful or not. In my case, I was born with the head of the dragon in Aries, which is sometimes why people perceive me as egocentric, because Aries is very competitive. Aries is being born a leader traditionally, and I happen to have the dragon's head in the mind. And that's why I am breaching what has been accepted traditionally by science and even religion, and help people to think out of the box.
Well, I appreciate that answer.
Okay, so keep an eye on your dragon's head and go and rip the benefits, and stay clear from the tail, because it can snap you away.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Dr. Turi. We have one question from Free Spirit. Please ask your question.
Yes, Dr. Turi, on your website in the frequently asked questions section, you very emphatically state that drugs in any form should never be used to heighten or guide someone on their quest to enlighten themselves or to increase their level of spirituality. Does this also include certain drugs that the shamans and indigenous peoples around the world have used throughout their cultures, such as ayahuasca and mushrooms? And what are your feelings on these types of shamanic practices with these drugs?
I'm 150% against it. Nostradamus, for example, was born with a moon in Scorpio, which means he had no fear of death. And he was born with the moon in his 12th house, and that moon was in the subconscious area. And being a physician, of course, he knew very well what type of mushroom could give him a kick. So most of the time when he was handling or dealing into the superconscious in time and space, he was being high, but he was born with the head of the dragon in Pisces, and that means the use of drug, while prohibited, in his case was beneficial, but it still blur his communication. Due to his Mercury also in the sign of Pisces. What I'm trying to say here, Neptune regulates the area of deception, illusion. Neptune, or the sign of Pisces, is the symbol chosen by Christianity. Okay, Neptune regulates the 875 different religions out there. Neptune regulates confinement, church, synagogue, asylum, drugs, alcohol, addiction, schizophrenia, dementia. Anything that is Neptunian is to be very, very cautious. If you go and see a dentist and he happen to have the characteristics of a Neptunian, which means a gypsy, a hippie, long hair, bad teeth, and smell pot, I don't think you will let this guy touch your mouth, correct? And that is an attitude that must be taken also in dealing with metaphysics and the spirit. You can go, or I can go, for the next 15 years on top of a mountain with a very famous guru. 15 years from today, I will be 15 years more stupid, because I would have popped my head to death instead of getting kicked in my butt when I behave the wrong way on this physical world. Because people are the one who have to taught me. They have taught me to line up. They have they have taught me my limitation and when I'm off course. So when you look at it, if you escape reality and you go into nirvana, you are not on this dense physical world. And what you can do instead is to attract or deal with low entities. Let me put it this way. I don't know if you heard of David Icke. David Icke, I don't know if I'm still his friend the way I wrote about him, but many years ago, he asked me to do a reading for him. And I told him, David, the tail of the dragon is moving in your subconscious. And that's why you want to remove yourself and you want to go to the Isle, I don't know, some of this remote island, which is typical Neptunian, and write a book. The next thing you know, he comes back and he starts to talk about the Queen of England, Obama, turning into lizards. So that is an early stage of dementia, which is probably produced by the subconscious receiving the tail of the dragon. And anytime you have this affliction, it makes people undergo a full restructure of their subconscious. And if you don't have the right solid information, now imagination's gonna key in. And if you happen to smoke pot on the side, which is pretty much what a lot of people do nowadays to escape reality and cool down, I will see it through the stars. Then you are not serving society in a logical, practical, beneficial way. I want to stay as far as I can from drugs. As a matter of fact, I'm 61 years old and I never, ever touch any form of drugs. Now, this doesn't mean that I don't enjoy my glass of wine. I will not enjoy a beer when I take my boat to the lake. Don't get me wrong. It is still a form of Neptunian energy, but it's very remote. I never ever have touched hardcore drugs or pot in my entire life, and it's maybe why I'm lucid and I keep my sanity all along.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you, Free Spirit. Thank you, Dr. Turi. We just have one more question before we have a quick 2-minute break. Louis, some people state that the controllers or Illuminati tried to transfer their karma to the masses or us by showing them what they intend to do, similar to how a vampire requires its victim to invite them into their house. Acceptance, either consciously or subconsciously, seems to be the key. Do you think karma works this way? And if so, how do we stop them from giving us negative karma?
Okay, now first of all, you have to be very, very cautious. When I mention loud and clear, even on Coast to Coast with George Norrie, not to feed evil, that's because people can only present their realities through their UCI, their experience, their education, their intelligence. So if you happen yourself to be sensitive to any form of negativity, you're going to sign up for any form of conspiracy. And right there, you're going to become a participant of feeding evil and mishandling the superconscious in time and space. This is so crucial that people understand not to allow anyone to insert any fears. Now, this does not take away the reality of conspiracy, sad enough. Conspiracy has always been there. And for example, you want to talk about karma. Oh my gosh. The young couple, the young royal couple that wed today, they sign a contract with the universe against the laws of the universe. They got married in a waning moon, which is the last thing you do when you sign any form of contract. That tells you how much the royalties have established enough cosmic consciousness to behave in such a stupid way. So that is already a dead end for the couple. It's like literally planting a potato in the middle of December, in the middle of a freezing temperature. But again, that's my explanation for those who cannot understand what I'm trying to say. Now, on top of that, both of this royal figure were also born with the tail of the dragon which is extraordinarily negative, in Capricorn. And England is ruled by Capricorn, and that's why English people never die, and that's why the true gift and legacy of the British is their aptitude for political science and politics. Once upon a time, they were running this country. So what I'm trying to say is, talking about karma, all the damage, all the abuse that the British hierarchy has imposed upon India, upon other country and Africa, the rape that took place during so many years with those two new royal family waiting today, they've signed up the end of the English high society.
Which, Dr. Turi, I believe you mentioned previously that that you see something possibly March in 2012 with the royal family. Is that right?
Well, knowing that, again, that those two children, I call them kids because they are kids with no cosmic consciousness and no awareness of the universal laws of the moon, knowing that they married against God's will, against the laws of the cosmic code, and knowing that they both born with the tail of the dragon in Capricorn, it will create a chain of very negative event in the UK. And again, I'm into the future, so all you have is the memory of that show, that discussion, and the future will, because I know my turf, prove me right. Now we just have to wait and see.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Turi.
You
what
bet.
we'll do is we'll just have a quick 2-minute break, and then we'll catch up again.
You bet.
Okay, you're with the Webbot Forum, and we're interviewing Dr. Louis Turi at drturi.com. Okay, the next set of questions is in regards to UFOs and aliens. And the first question is from myself, Jules. Louis, you stated on previous shows that you were abducted by tall, giant, blonde-haired humans, very much like Nordics. Many researchers believe there are many different types of aliens as well as humanoids. Perhaps they are our long-lost cousins that visit us. Do you feel that these Nordics are here to help us or control us, or both?
Well, in my case, they certainly... Well, if I tell you what happened to me, maybe you can be the judge and answer your own question. My gosh, in one of my trip back from England, I arrived, it was a Sunday, I recall that very well. And I arrived home and my sister was not there, and I was quite upset not to see her. And my mom said, oh, she's gone to work. I said, Sunday. She goes, yeah, she takes the bus and she has to drive to a job lost in the mountain. And anyway, and that was it. Then she came back and she was crying and she was upset because she missed the bus. Of course, there was no accident. So my mom says, don't worry, Louis is going to take you there. So here we go. Let's cut the story short. It's 4:30 in the morning. I'm totally exhausted. Noel, my sister, is asleep. And I'm trying to keep this car on the road in the mountain. And it's icy and it's cold. I'm desperate for a cup of coffee. Very, very worrying about falling asleep. And then the road dipped down into a valley, and I saw some lights in there. I said, oh my gosh, finally some human life. So I parked my car, and I recall very well there was absolutely nobody on that little thing here. I was kind of wondering, how come this place is 4:30 in the morning is open? I mean, it's not like America where you have McDonald's, open 24/7 here, you know? So that was kind of but I didn't dwell too much on that. I woke my sister up and I asked her if she, what she wanted to drink when we arrived at the bar. And again, it was freezing cold, so I would never forget her answer when she asked me to get her a Coca-Cola. Women. Anyway, so I said, you sit here by the door and I'll be right there. I went straight to the bar, and as I walked towards the bar, I saw those three huge guys. Oh my gosh, they were so big, they could make a football player look like a child. They were so enormous. Anyway, to the point where my face standing up at the bar, my face was at the belt of this guy. I have to tell you how big they were. And they were like looking in front of them, like motionless, faceless. I don't know, what the hell is this guy? And I thought, I hope they have good intention, because, I may be very protective of my little sister, but if they had bad intention, I'd be in trouble because they're so big. I thought they were loggers, guys that work in the mountain. Anyway, so I asked for a Coca-Cola, and I brought that to my sister, and waiting for my coffee. Then one of them, the one I was close to, turned around, and he looked down, and I look up, and I see this big, huge monster guy. He looked at me, and he says, "Do you want to play cards?" I look at him, and I thought, I'm very tired. I'm here to, find my way as direction and have a cup of coffee. And then he says, "Do you want to play cards?" And then, like if I could not refuse. And I thought, well, might as well go and play with him, because who knows, maybe he's drunk or something. So he had, I said, "Okay, well, let's play cards." He says to me, you're going to be friends with cards for the rest of your life. And I can't even play poker to this day when I go to Las Vegas. The only card I play, he was right, is the tarot, and each hand is a winner as far as I'm concerned. So he got this card, and he asked me to pick up a card. So I pick up the card, and as soon as my eyes are set on the card, he tells me what the card is. Then I look at him. He does this a couple times, and I look at him, I say, "Wow, that's interesting." And he says, "Yes, it is interesting. Take another one, and take another one." Like he forced me till I challenged him in my mind. I said, "What the hell this guy wants?" Then I said, "That's a stupid game." Then he looked at me and he goes, and I never told him my name. He says, "Louis, this is not a stupid game." And then he says, "Pick a card." Oh my gosh, right there I was freaking out. So I pick up a card, okay, and I thought, I didn't tell him anything. I thought, I'm going to change the 9 of diamond for the Queen of Spade. And then he looked at me and he says, "No, Louis, you are not going to change the 9 of diamond for the Queen of Spade." Oh my God. At that very moment, I put my hand on the side of the bar. I was trying to keep my balance. It felt like someone was sticking a screwdriver from one side of my temple to the other. So I asked the barman, "Where is the bathroom, please?" And the bathroom was just right there, and the door was open. So I managed to get there, and I felt I had like a chain in my head connecting me with this guy. And I put some really cold water on my face because I thought I was going to pass out. And I was talking to this guy. I was talking in my head to this guy, saying, "What the hell? Who are you? What are you doing to me?" And the tiger in me came up and said, "I don't care how big you are going to freaking, excuse my French, tell me what the hell you're doing to me." And it didn't take too long to put some water in my face. Maybe 5 seconds. That's the maximum time I'd stayed in that little bathroom. I didn't even shut the door behind me. I went right back into the restaurant. I went and I looked. These 3 guys were gone. So I look at the barman and I said, "Where are they?" He says, "Who?" "Those guys." "Oh, but they just left." I said, "Okay." So I look at my sister, and she was still sleeping on the sides. And I went outside. I took all the strength that I had left in me and tried to hold on to that terrible headache. And then I listened and I looked left and right, and I didn't see anything. And it was still a bit dark. Don't get me wrong. So I went back in and I said to the guy, "Who are those guys?" And he said to me, "I don't know. They just came before you. You must have seen their car." I said, "There was no car there. I can assure you there was no car." I don't remember from that moment. The only thing I remember is I didn't even know if I paid the guy. I just remember to grab my sister and tell her, "Let's get out of here right now." And the next thing I remember is the next day, 9 o'clock in the morning, I'm driving back home. Now, where have I been? I don't remember taking my sister to the hospital where she used to work. I don't remember driving in or out. I just wake up at the entrance of my little village back home the next day, 9 o'clock in the morning. And for about 3 weeks, I had the biggest ever headache I would never wish on my worst enemy. So now, when you have such an experience with those tall gray, those tall blonde, the Nordics, which I know to be the Nordics, and the pain they left me with, you're talking about my second UFO experiences here, that it makes you wonder of what their agenda is. I believe they probably came to finish something. They set up that restaurant, so to speak, open in the middle of nowhere. They set it up in a way that it made sense to me. I have no idea what happened to me. The only thing I know is the terrible headache they left me with for many weeks after that. So how would you classify? Now I'm asking you the question. How would you classify these people to be? Because the experience was very dramatic, very painful. I felt invaded. Very, very different than the others that I had. That was probably the most painful experience I could ever have.
Luis, it's my understanding that you went through hypnotic regression to discover what happened to you when you were abducted by aliens as a child.
Indeed, I still have the video right here on my desk.
Amazing. Just curious, you stated on a radio station you'd been abducted 4 times.
Correct.
Have the abductions now stopped?
No. The last time was a week before I had cancer. I was on my way to the regular shop with my wife, Turi. I was driving my Hammer. As a matter of fact, the truck knows his own way to this health shop because my wife, being an Aries, is very much into health. So we go there practically every day, and we take exactly the same roads. And that day, just a week before I go to Thailand, we drove there, and we arrived. We're supposed to turn right at a stop sign, and Tiranya and I were looking at each other's. And where is the stop sign? And she says, I don't know. I haven't seen it yet. But no, we're not. And we keep driving. What happened is we end up 4 blocks past the shop and on a different street. Excuse me. And it's impossible for me when I make a right turn to end up on a street which is a block north of my house. So this is the last abduction that Tiranya and I went through. And like my first wife, Brigitte, when I told her, and she was laughing at me, I told her that these things happened to me and maybe one day you will have to go through that. And God knows, poor thing, not only she got through that, but she lost a child. So Tiranya is probably next in line to undergo one of these extraordinary UFOs experiences.
Thank you, Dr. Turi. How has the experience of abduction affected your psychic abilities or the ability to offer future event predictions? The most significant one is when I end up in that flying saucer, and I was watching Brigitte, my ex-wife, being operated on. And incidentally, after the abduction, I noticed Brigitte had a 2-inch scar just above the airline that was not there before the abduction, and the scar is like a laser type of cat, and I saw her laying down on that table, and I saw the people working around her. I saw all this on the screen inside of the belly of the saucer. I was walking around, I was looking at the gray, handling all the equipment. The grays, or the dignified robots, are the one that cutting the cows and flying the saucer. They are not the management. They are just the workers. They are the ants, so to speak, dignified robot, as I call them. Then I knew I had to go to another room, and I entered that room and I sat. And as I sat, something came down from the ceiling of the flying saucer, like a helmet that stops at just above my lips, and then I felt like a mixture of being made of glass, concrete, and steel, and electricity. I kind of imploded, and the feeling, it's very difficult to find the words to describe the what an implosion feels like in your body and in your brain at the same time. And the next thing I know, I am driving on the speed bump on the highway, and my wife is screaming, "What are you doing? Pick up your speed, pick up your speed." I was at 35 miles per hour on the highway on the way to Los Angeles. And I said to her,
I'm sorry. Where are we? And she says, what do you mean? We're not arrived yet. I haven't seen the sign of Disneyland. We just left San Diego at 8:00. So I decided to exit, and I arrived on the parking lot, and there was 3 guys sitting on the back of a white Toyota truck having their lunch or their sandwiches. So I went there and I said, excuse me, could you tell me where I am? The guys look at each other and kind of smiling, thinking maybe I was definitely sick or crazy or whatever. And they tell me, you are at the Glendale Zoo after Los Angeles exit on the parking lot. I said, are you joking? And then I said, what time is it, please? He said, it's 9:00. Oh my God. And unless there is no traffic on the way to Los Angeles and no cops to stop me with a Ferrari at 200 miles per hour, maybe I could have done that. It took us an hour and a half just to go back to the hotel where Bridget had a beauty pageant to attend. Then I told Bridget, honey, do you remember when I told you we were going to have these type of things? She said, yes. So, well, we are after Los Angeles and it's 9:00 in the morning. She was crying, she was screaming, she was confused, and then she finally never came back home. We arrived at the hotel, she called one of her friends and took off we were in San Diego during those days, she took off to Phoenix and divorced me. I guess she had good reason. She very, very scared. It was very traumatic for her to be launched 90 miles north in a fraction of a second. So,
yeah, of course, Dr. Turi, it's very, very interesting story. And the thing about this is that you have first-hand evidence as opposed to other researchers. But talking about that, renowned researcher Jacques Vallée thinks the alien abductions are nefarious. Yes, you mentioned cattle mutilations. What do you think is the end goal of these abductions, and why they're collecting DNA?
Well, basically, they have an agenda. I mean, if you want to start a chicken business, chances are you're going to look for Mr. Best Chicken, male and female. And if you look around you, 99.9% of the people around you, they are not connected with Einstein. A lot of Joe Sixpack and a lot of people that don't have critical thinking. So they are not. They are looking for the best of the best in terms of physical and spiritual manifestation for repopulation purpose. Put it this way, each single star that you see above your head is a sun, and each one of those stars, even though that you cannot see it and it's challengeable in the terms of scientific findings, each one of these stars has a solar system that supports life, but not life as you perceive it in a human form, because there is an endless variety on our Earth of life, and there is the same as far as the ET agenda is concerned. They are looking for the best of the best, and this is why I wrote a newsletter called "Are You a Chosen One?" So, if you have that curiosity, that spark, if you have that quality, that gene they are looking for, then you'll be a perfect candidate for repopulation. So they will either abduct you and take your child, or take your DNA, or maybe take you. You know, that's how it works. So that is what I firmly know to be the truth from my own experiences. Again, understand that. Now, the process of cutting cows and investigating their tongue and this and that is to check on the food supply and see how much damage we have done so far in terms of messing up Mother Earth. And that's more logical than anything else. But that's one of their agenda is to pick up the best of the human legacy and reproduce other solar system. Makes you think.
You often state that ETs are the gardeners of our world, and they're watching us so we don't self-destruct. Some pass on technological information to advance a purpose, and some protect our solar system from wandering debris. And I believe you stated the moon and perhaps even planets have been put in place by these other races. Is this a fair statement? And does this suggest we're a bit like pets on a farm after all?
Indeed. Let's answer first your question. Jupiter happens to be the biggest planet in our solar system, and Jupiter was set, from what they told me, downloaded to me, as the biggest magnet you can have in our solar system. Jupiter is called in Greek mythology the great protector, the great benefic. So as experienced with the shoe comets, before they hit us, they hit the big back of Jupiter. So this is why it's practically impossible for any comet to come here and end up this world. On the other hand, you could see the moon is next door. I mean, next door, and she looks like a golf ball, loaded from every single area with crater. Now, doesn't occur to your mind that how come if the moon is bombarded, the Earth is not bombarded? It doesn't have as much crater. Because the moon was collected and removed from the gravitational forces of Jupiter and brought to our solar system when extraterrestrials were building this solar system. All these craters that you see in the moon are very, very condensed, well calculated nuclear explosion that are set from different ships to remove the moon without destroying it. And of course, when you have people that tell you the moon is hollow, if that was the case, of course, there would be no enough gravitational forces to create those tides. The moon plays an extraordinarily important part and is designed by the extraterrestrial also to impart the emotional response of humans. If you have the moon, like for example, in Aries, you're going to be ruled by Mars, and the moon being so close, the energy will be bouncing on you. You're going to be really fast. You're going to be very competitive and self-centered. If you have the moon in Gemini, like me, you're going to be gifted in communication, in writing, in language, in photography, all the good things that I do. If you have the moon in Cancer, like one of my good friends, you're going to be a better cook than any woman. As a matter of fact, he's one of the top chefs at the Hyatt in Florida. And this is why the problem starts. Sometimes you have a religious mother screaming to her daughter, "My gosh, when I was your age, 14 years old, I didn't have to beg grandma in the kitchen to show me how to cook, and I cannot even make you clean your bedroom, make your bed, or be interested in cooking when you get married. I raised you like a beautiful Christian, and I don't understand you, my daughter. What have I done wrong?" That's where the problem is. In the nucleus, into the house, the mother, without cosmic consciousness, is unable to realize that the daughter was born with a moon in Aries, in Leo, or in Sagittarius, which is absolutely non-domestic. And instead wanted to cook and raise a family, this little girl wants to become an airline pilot. She wants to be a fighter. She wants to be in the army, the navy. She has no domesticity values in her makeup. So when the problems start at home with your own children, how do you expect this humongous ignorance not to tremendously duplicate itself with the rest of the world? And that's what the moon does. When you arrive in this dense physical world, the location of your moon enunciates your spirituality and your emotions and your domesticity. If you have the moon in Pisces, you're going to be a natural born pothead. Or if you swim upstream, you're going to be very artistic. You're going to like to dance. You're going to be into the spirit. And if you swim downstream, then you're going to follow and sign up for any religion. And that's the fish going downhill into destruction, confinement, and sink into the quicksand of deceiving Neptune, the ruler of Pisces. If you have the moon in Scorpio, like Elizabeth Taylor, God bless us all, you are going to kill the domestic scenery. And if I recall, she was married 6 times. And so is my first wife. She was born with the moon in Scorpio, and I never understood why she was stinging all her husbands. I am husband number 1. After me, she married 5 times, and she has 5 kids with 5 different men. If you have the moon in Scorpio, that stinger, which is again, a symbol chosen by the ancient Sumerian to represent death. If you have that moon in Scorpio, death can enter your life from your own base of operation, and create all sorts of explanation that the police is missing, especially in the case of that little girl in Colorado. What is the name? That little queen that was killed at home. I can't remember her name now. Exactly, but that little girl was born in August. Now, if you count 4, including the months of August, September, October, November, at home, that little girl becomes a Scorpio. And wherever you have Scorpio in your chart, this is where death, drama, and the police will enter your life. It's just rules that I know. These rules are endlessly constantly asserted to my consciousness every single day. If you have the moon in Sagittarius, like Sag moon, your food, the moon represents emotion, food. Sag moon food is spiritual. It is supposed to receive and produce and give out spiritual food. So if he doesn't get spiritual food, then it's not going to regenerate. Now, the food he may be acquainted to is from the codification of thought, and that could mean religious values. And if he's advanced, then he jump into astrology or anything else. And obviously he's advanced. If not, he wouldn't be digging into the stars. But if you have the moon in Capricorn, then your emotional response to life will be to listen to classical music and to get into politics. If you have the moon in Aquarius, then you're going to be definitely weird and extraterrestrial, will definitely knock at your door, because that is a very interesting moon which predisposed the soul to experience a very original experience right on the base of operations. If you have the moon in Taurus, like President Obama, Taurus is the symbol chosen by Maryland's corporation, the bull, solidity. That is the symbol that the ancient Sumerian have created to represent money, the banking industry, the bull. When you deal with money, you have to be solid and strong and firmly planted on the ground. So you cannot be washy-washy and dreamy when you deal with money. This is why they created the bull. They draw the sign of the bull. President Obama was born with the moon in Taurus. The moon in Taurus means supreme wealth, supreme solidity, and that's why he lives in the White House. There is having the moon. By the way, President Clinton was also born with the moon in Taurus and was there too. So wherever you have that Taurus, this is where you will be allowed to establish emotional, financial, and spiritual stability. There is so much information that are available through these old rare science, but it was taken away. It was taken away from us.
Excuse me, Dr. Turi.
You bet.
Sorry. We just had some feedback there, but that's all cleared now. Okay. Thank you, Patrick, for your question. Thank you, Dr. Turi. Your former wife having 5 children and 5 husbands. Wow, she must really have good DNA. We'll move over to predictions and forecasts. My first question, Dr. Turi, is in an interview on Journey into the Light in January 2011, you stated that the negative energy of the dragon plaguing the US economy would end in March 2011. Other researchers think that the economy has been propped up by the Illuminati and is about to crash very soon, leading to hyperinflation, $600 silver prices, food shortages, energy shortages, and riots. What do you see for the US economy and the global economy for the rest of 2011, and maybe for Australia?
Okay, now, first of all, you have to understand that people, when they don't possess cosmic consciousness, all they can use is their physical senses. Okay? When I was on Coast to Coast with George Norrie in December 2007, I must have been probably the first ever guest in all networks in the United States to mention the very words, be ready for a full restructure of the U.S. economy. And at the same time, I said to George Norrie, I said, the beginning of the end will be in March 2011. And if you look at the progress since March 2011, everything is slowly but surely on its way up. So now, this is why I can assure you, if I was able to give you the date a year before in my books and on national radio, or in December 2007, and if I am confirming that March is the beginning of the end, I can assure you, and that's where you're going to see the beauty of having true cosmic consciousness, that the U.S. economy is going to go right back to where it belongs. And as we hit 2012, 2013, Americans are going to be in a much better place. And when that takes place, that could also lead to the re-election of Mr. Obama. You heard me.
Well, if he doesn't get assassinated, I believe.
Well, of course.
mentioned.
Well, you have to remember he was born with the tail of the dragon in the sign of Aquarius, and that means he's very unlucky with anything electronics, an airplane, an Air Force One, and that nasty energy follows also his wife, Michelle, with the nearly accident they had. As a matter of fact, two other people were born with the same nasty karmic dragon tail in Aquarius and end up their life in a very sad and shocking way. The first one is the crocodile hunter from Australia, Dave Irving, I believe. He died stung by a ray, and he spent his life on television. And the other person is Princess Diana, who literally exploded in a tunnel in France. So when you're born with the tail of the dragon in Aquarius, you are definitely set to end up your life in a very, very shocking way. And this is why it's extraordinarily important for Mr. Obama to be very cautious when he travels, especially on Force One. There is so many things that our science does not understand just yet. And I'm here every single day trying my best to educate people.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you. Yeah. This question is from forum member Easy Chair. We were talking about dowsing and pendulums during the break. There are a lot of forum members who do use pendulum readings and dowsing and see a devastating release of both the New Madrid seismic zone and the West Coast earthquakes, either San Andreas or Cascadia. Do you have any forecasts for those areas and the likely time frame?
Well, basically, the time frame is already set on the set of date that I gave you. I always said that if NASA, USGS, NOAA, if they were willing to work with me, my impeccable timing, and I mention that for good reason because you will be the judge of that if you keep an eye on the date I posted on WebBot's website. If those scientifically oriented, educated people were to stop assuming that I am a miscleo, and work with me in terms of following the fault activity with my timing, we could, if we work in harmony together, give you a very precise location. But as it stands now, USGS and NASA, regardless of the billions of dollars of our tax dollars building this sophisticated electronic equipment, they have never, ever been able to give you either a location or a very specific timing. And I do have some unarguable email exchanges with USGS where I told them to be ready on specific day for earthquake well above 6.5. And those two very specific days had a 7 point something earthquake. I can't recall it right now. And that is traceable, unarguable, dated and printed. And I did the same also on Coast to Coast with George Norrie when I told him in 2 days from today, be ready for a big earthquake. George laughed and he says, earthquake happened every day, Dr. Turi. I said, George, we're talking about an earthquake above 7.0. And 2 days later, it took place. And it's on his website, and I have the proof. But I am not here to prove my point. I already have it done. Trying to answer your question that if they wanted to give me a chance, not only USGS in terms of natural disaster, but also the police, we will be much more safe here and well informed in using the cosmic codes. But again, I might be a little bit ahead of time for these people, and that's where I'm at. God thanks, there are people like Fox, Patrick, you, Sandra, Lolly, Jill, and Sajmoon that are here to help me to pass on my information, because directly or involved, consciously or not, you are part of my mission to further humanity cosmic consciousness. You're doing your part with me, and I thank you for that.
Thank you. In your latest newsletter, you did say that Neptune is now entering Pisces, right? Correct? Having the effect of forcing the world into its last 14-year cycle of emotional battles between the old and the new. Can you elaborate on how this will manifest in our world?
Okay, first of all, it takes 2,000 years for one planet to affect the karmic work of this world. Last 2,000 years, the world was under Neptune. Again, Neptune rules the sign of Pisces. By the way, Pisces rules the Middle East. That's where all the major religions were born. Pisces was also oil, by the way. So last 2,000 years, the world was under the jurisdiction of a very deceiving planet. Neptune is a dreamer. Neptune is an artist. Neptune is into forgetting reality and getting drunk or getting high, put it this way. The new ruler of this world came along in 1945 when science were able to handle the uranium and plutonium, or Uranus or Pluto, and detonated the first bomb, so to speak. And humanity has made much more discovery in the last 50 years than 2,000 years spent under Neptune power. So Uranus rules the future of humanity, the incredible, the impossible, the reality of UFO, technology, the World Wide Web, the internet. So this new energy is forcing, as predicted in my prediction, to get the Middle East to implode. Everything about deception, religion, everything about the way people perceive reality. The new dragon and the age of Aquarius is forcing a reevaluation of wisdom and acceptance. So we're already going pretty fast into the age of Aquarius, and that's going to be quite exciting, especially as we approach the year 2012, which I consider being finally the golden door, shutting down the entire age of Pisces. So with Neptune in Pisces, there is still a battle that has to be fought by the remaining of what Pisces represents, which is the Vatican, which is a myriad of deceiving religions that have killed so many people in the name of God knows what. So this hierarchy, this archaic teaching now must give room to a different type of information, which is easily reachable through the internet. Once upon a time, I remember 15 years ago, it was very difficult for me to talk about the stars. And, you could go to any hotel and you could be sure you would find the Bible, because this is how they monopolize and control the information. But nowadays you won't find a laptop in every door or in every drawer on any room in a hotel in Las Vegas. So this means a lot of more people through the age and the means of electronic Aquarius can now access your show, my information, and furthering more cosmic consciousness to the world of the future. So this Pisces energy is still blurring people. They don't want to let go. They still want to stay in the box. They have fears. They have insecurity. They have their imagination. They have been trained for 2,000 years.
Yeah, I thought you might want that.
Yeah. They have been trained for 2,000 years to actually eat the same type of food and think in the box. So it's going to take a little fight with all of us to turn things around, put it this way.
So you're saying that for about the next 14 years that kind of that blurring and the old and the new and the battles and tension both individually and on a global level?
Exactly, and it's already taking place, as I said. The age of Pisces and the Middle East, which is ruled by Pisces. You know, Pisces is a water sign. Have you ever heard Arabs speaking? The language of Arab sounds like it looks like, and I'm not saying it in an offending way. I'm trying to pass on an energy here. It looks like if those people are speaking under the water. You know what I'm saying? It sounds now French, for example, is a Leo language, and that's why we say French are romantic. It makes our accent lovely, and it produces France and Italy, by the way, are Leo's country, and that's why there is so much artistical legacy. And the language of the French and the Italian is subconsciously perceived as being very romantic. America, July 4, 1776, is a Cancer country. This is a country that can support itself and literally feed the entire world and produce so much food. And that's why the majority of Americans are spending a fortune to lose fat, literally, because there's so much food. If you look at Russia, Russia is a Scorpio country. Russia is dead. What does Scorpio do? Scorpio kills. So the USSR is dead and Russia is born again. And Scorpio rules the FBI, the CIA, including, of course, the KGB. And this is why they had the exact same replica of the American shuttle. So Germany is an Aries country. Aries is ruled and controlled by Mars. By the way, Hitler was born in April under the constellation of Aries. And when you hear the German accent, it sounds very army-like. It sounds very rough, very Germanic, and that's why Mars, which is the Lord of War in Greek mythology, ruled this country and ruled Hitler, and this is why the best steel ever to be found to build tank and bayonets and grenades is to be found in the mountain of Bavaria in Germany. So when you look at it, the Germans are an Aries race. So that's where the Aryan race, the white supremacists came from, or the worst of the sign of Aries, which is me, white supremacist Aries. There is values behind each one of these signs controlling each one of this country, and that is not being taught in our college or university, and it's such a waste.
Mm-hmm. So what do you see happening after this next 14 years, say in 2025? What's your vision?
Well, it doesn't. I don't think it's going to take that long. The age of Aquarius is so explosive. As a matter of fact, the entire technology we have today, we'll be literally laughing at our computers and at the speeds that we are using our computer. We're going to have super fast computers. Everything technology speaking that you use today will be obsolete, literally. So, and that will be in less than 10 years from now. Okay. Now, once the dragon moves every 2 years into a different sign, it will. Once he moves out of the 12th house of the United States, things are going to get better. Right now, the tail of the dragon is in the subconscious of this country, into the sign of Gemini. Okay, and that's why you have people that cruises the United States in caravan, promising the end of this world sometime in May or in June. I don't know when. So there is no this dragon's tail in the subconscious will make people prone to serious depression. They're gonna have this lack of grounding. Of course, not knowing better, they're gonna aim for spiritual guidance or worse. Gonna get addicted by traditionally educated psychologists or psychiatrists that don't know anything better than to poison you with dangerous chemicals. So once this dragon's tail is removed from the subconscious area of the United States, people are going to see that after the year 2012, nothing that was supposed to end this world took place. Pretty much that when people was expecting the year 2000 that California was going to go under the ocean, or when the Y2K came along, or the computer would be dead, the same thing's going to happen on 2012. Nothing but an unseen uplifting of the human spirit's perception. This is why I have chosen the day after, or December 22nd, for the universal prayer, Dr. Turi Universal Prayer, because I will be there laughing my head off like I always did. And then this is where people have to finally realize Elvis is not coming back, and so is Jesus. Jesus and Elvis are not coming back. To start with, they have to be approached on a radical way. They have to understand it's time to stop. It's time to stop being stupid, literally. It's time to wake up to reality. It's time to realize that if you handle the creative forces of the superconscious, you have the opportunity to alter the course of the human history, something that I'm trying so hard in my endless work, writing, talking on radio, television appearance, in my speaking engagement. Every single time I am trying to make people aware that you are not doomed. God did not put you on this earth to suffer a terrible hint that is in the head of lost young souls who have no cosmic consciousness, that have been religiously poisoned. Do not buy it. Do not endorse it. Do not promote it, because the superconscious, you may call him God if you feel like, it is the same power that gets your heart beating. He does not know the difference between the wish or the fears. That's why I'm always saying, do not listen to talking head, apocalyptic teachers, in anything that is negative. If you listen to a show or watch a TV show, and at the end of the show you want to commit suicide, right there, you have been fed evil. You have better things to do by joining these universal forces of light that is bringing true wisdom and the true reality that we can make this world an incredible, safe, wonderful place where respect and love is something that we can all enjoy.
Well, I like that message. Thank you very much.
You bet. Well, this is my
go ahead.
And excuse me, I'm still shouting. I apologize to cut you off, my friend. This is my passion is so strong. My vision is so real. My words are coming from the core of the essence of God himself. And I'm telling you, all that you have been forced to believe about the end of the world is just bull. Period. You take it from me. There is much more we can do. We are not doomed, and we're gonna get things in hands. We are really gonna wake up and understand God's face and God's tools and work in harmony with His creation. That's all.
Lovely. Thank you.
All right.
Dr. Turi, how are you holding up? We have about another 8 questions, so it's probably about 30 to 45 minutes. How are you going?
I'm just absolutely fine, Jules. When I channel information, I tend to become more passionate, and that I don't want your audience to perceive this as me being an egocentric. It's just fervency, the energy, the light going through me to you, and if you can feel it, so I guess everybody else will feel it. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Then we'll proceed. Then, Free Spirit, you have a question for Dr. Turi.
Yes, well, he kind of started into it answering Lolly's question, but we'll go ahead and see if we can get a little deeper. You claim that, as you stated, in 2012, you don't see the apocalypse that many others are talking about. What you see is a time of awakening and readjustment. Can you explain this for us and give us a few of your predictions for 2012?
Okay, as it stands now, if you get a compass, it will point out north, correct? That means the general thought process is going in one direction and one direction alone, and that means straight to hell. If I am not allowed to get a bigger, wider voice as just explained earlier, the superconscious in time and space does not reason. It does not reason. God will create an earthquake and kill innocent babies. That's what I'm trying to say. But God is a big back. When you don't have cosmic consciousness and you don't understand something, there goes religion, there goes imagination, there goes science, or there goes conspiracy. And this has to end. I can assure you that if you look introvertly into yourself and ask this very question, what it is that I always wanted, and I can assure you, if you formulate this question, you will find out that you have always get it. For example, there is a lot of people right now that are not happy. My gosh, the economy is miserable. Now they are forced out of their job, lost their houses, but at the same time they were working for somebody who treat them like a dog. They were not making enough money. So this dragon works as a blessing in disguises, forcing the person to rebirth themselves with uncovering talent that they did not know they had. And as far as the year 2012 is concerned, again, it can go either way. As it stands now, we are about at 40-60 against me. Now, the more I talk to people and the more I make people aware that they are God in training and cast aside their fears, get out of the box, realize that they have been granted the power to create, they can also understand that they can control humanity's destiny by doing one very simple thing. And that is, don't give in to evil. Don't feed evil. Make a choice to think for the light, to think for the future. As much as you could see a beautiful car in the street. I remember one day I went out of this bar and I had my Corvette parked out there and the top was off. I came out, I was so disgusted, so surprised. People spit on my hood and put cigar on my leather seats. How in the hell, excuse my French, will you attract the Corvette that I had then? If you spit in it, if you're jealous, if you nurture the humanity, the human shortcomings of hatred, don't give in to evil. Be happy if someone is successful. Be happy if that person is doing better than you. And listen to that little voice inside of you. That little voice is set by God to never lie to you. Listen to it, because if it tells you you're going to gain something in going in that direction or not, chances are you're going to be right. I do not and refuse, I repeat, do not and refuse categorically to endorse any talking head out there, famous or not, that are promising the end of the world, a bad economy, and we all go end up in hell. Period. The message is very simple. My message is very clear. Aim for God, aim for light, aim for love, aim for the future. Do not feed evil, because you may be, and less, I hope now, unconscious but you are dealing with forces that are well above yourself. You're dealing with eternal forces that are the essence of creation, the essence of God. Then you only have a positive, a negative, a front to back, or up and down, positive, negative, God and devil. Make a choice to go towards the light. And if you get this attitude, if you're positive and you have faith in you, I guarantee you that you may call it the secret, okay? It will come to pass. I remember when I arrived in the United States in 1984, I was so scared. I had no money. I had no credit card, no social security. I was an illegal alien, no food, no friends. This is how Dr. Turi arrived in this country in 1984. But I knew I had to touch the ground of this great country after the new moon. and I knew I had to use one of my dragon window dates. And I turned everything around me into pure gold. I have reached emotional, financial, and spiritual stability. I have the best toys, the best tools, a wonderful, loving, respectful, smart wife, wonderful dogs, an incredible life, and a hell of a lot of good followers. And I don't know why, if you have just a bit of common sense, why you should not follow my footstep. Instead of challenging me, try to understand me. Then, if you're ready for me, then I'll be there for you. That's how it works.
Sounds awesome. It sounds like the power of attraction and manifestation.
Exactly, and that's why you are part of this great discussion today, because somewhere, somehow, the depth of your thoughts to participate or to have a position as a spiritual leader is already manifesting where you are at in time and space. Now you have other wishes, you have other expectation. I guarantee you that if you keep your mind positive and if you don't feed evil and if you don't doubt, okay, don't ask how or don't ask when. Do not put a date. Don't say, oh, in 2 months I'm going to be there, or next year I'm going to have that. No, don't do that to yourself. Okay, you're going against the laws. Just have total faith. Okay, like I had once I received, when I had the cancer, and I received, oh my gosh, so many blessings from people all over the world. And my wife and I, we could not keep up with the good wishes that I received. I felt that energy. Well, let me tell you something else, and that is really going to get the point across. I was 18 years old, and in France, it's the law. You have to do your time on the army, and I was about 300 miles away from home, and I was in the cantina with all the other soldier ready, waiting for my orientation to know if I'm going to be working on the Navy, the Army, or the Air Force. I was there with all the kids. I was drinking beer. I was smoking cigarette. I was laughing my head off. I was with a bunch of new kids about to service my country in France. I was 18 years old. And then all of a sudden, I did not know what came upon myself. I could not help my tears pouring out of my eyes. But that's not me. I'm the most happy man in the world. I'm joking all the time. What the hell, again, excuse my French, it's happening to me, to the point where I didn't want to cry in front of the other soldier. So I ran off in the bathroom. And as soon as I closed the door, I could not stop crying. Why? Then I heard my name through the speakers. Soldier Turi, report immediately to the captain office. And I will never forget this call through the high speakers. I went to the office, and there was the captain with a telephone in his hand. He looked at me and he says, son, you're here to become a man. He says, your brother is on the phone. He wants to talk to you. Be strong. That's all he said. And I already knew, oh my God. My older brother Joe was trying everything he could not to cry, saying to me, Louis, you have been released. You have to come home. Vince is dead. Vincent was 16 years old, born with the moon in Scorpio, death, with a dragon's tail in Leo, short life. And he died, killed by a drunk driver. Which means 300 miles away, my entire family was crying. My mother was sedated. My brothers, 7 of them, was crying and screaming. All the neighbors and all the family were in that bedroom looking at Vince dead with bandage to hold his brain. I came a few hours later. They put me in the train with 3 other soldiers because they wanted to make sure I didn't do anything bad to me because I was going crazy. And I realized many years later the power of the thoughts. When I said to you the future is the reincarnation of the thought, and there is magic behind your thought, and thought do alter matter, that's where I'm referring at when I talk about the supraconscious in time and space. And many times before my younger brother died, he was saying to me, one less day to live, Louis, less day to live. And I used to say, what's going on into you, brother? Why do you say that every day? You pay me off. But he subconsciously felt that he was not going to be around for long. And I refused it. And 300 miles away, I knew he was dead before I received the call. And that's why sometimes you can know when the telephone is ringing that somebody is going to call you before the telephone rings. You need to tap on that source of power. You need to develop that perception. You need to understand that you're not alone. You have an incredible power above you. You have God watching you, if I may use those words. And if you're smart enough, if you ask enough, if you're curious enough, and if you work hard enough, you will be allowed to enter this extraordinary realm of superconsciousness and make a good use of the power at your advantage like I did. I hope that answered your question.
Absolutely. I'd love to go on about it, but I need to ask another question before Jules hits me over the head. Can you please give us a few of your predictions for 2012?
Well, basically there will be a connection with the incredible. Technology will not be, even though that we are pretty close to 12, there will be some very, very supreme development as far as technology is concerned. We will be very close to finally kill cancer. We will be also very well prepared with documentation that was hidden from the mass about the reality of extraterrestrials. And you have to remember, extraterrestrials cannot give you a toy or a tool to bring on this dense physical manifestation because of antimatter. If you dwell with extraterrestrials, they're going to give you a psychic or a spiritual gift. And as far as I'm concerned, this is a very solid legacy that I earned from them, put it this way. So as far as 2012 predictions, I can see also the U.S. economy. I see more and more corporations getting together and rebuilding that economy to where America is set by God to be, which means the top leading country in the world, just because America was born with the head of the dragon in Leo, in the second house of money on top of that. So the economy is going to be revived. Tremendous action in the world of investment in large corporation. Many banks will be giving money like never before. I'm telling you, I see much more positivity in the near future, to the point where things start to go our way. Most of the people who have no cosmic consciousness will fully believe that Obama is responsible for the economy when it's actually a higher order that has forced him down the ground and helped him up, so to speak. So you have got a lot of good things to look for into the future for 2012.
Thank you so much.
My sure pleasure, honey.
Thank you, Louis. Just one more quick question before we take a break. I really hope you're right, Louis, but I mean, it's hard to tell because a lot of researchers are thinking something else, but I really hope you're right. The thing I try to reconcile is you talk about cycles in predictions and the past repeating itself.
Indeed.
What if there's many cycles at play? For example, the US has its birth date and that has a cycle, but the Earth has a birth date and that has a cycle, and the Sun, and Carl Kellerman talks about the galactic cycle. Couldn't larger cycles affect smaller cycles, and hence that could deter your predictions or general predictions?
No, really, because this solar system is set like a radio station. You could turn the knob on your radio station, AM or FM, and you're going to captivate under a certain amount of megahertz. If you're too far, then the energy that are past this solar system cannot interfere or alter the affairs of this world. This world is touched only by the celestial family, which is neighboring or making up our solar system. And the timing that I have so far has to be investigated. You have the date on your website. There will be probably quite a lot of discussion when comes those dates and when my prediction, as always, will transpire. And I'm saying this not on an egocentrical point of view, but as a firm confidence of my past that has proven me to be accurate each time. So now it comes down to it's me to know and you to find out by just being patient and investigate my work.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Turi. What we'll do is we'll just have a quick 2-minute break, and we've got another 5 or 6 to go, and then we'll finish off. So 2-minute break.
Thank you, Jill.
Okay, welcome back to the WebBot Forum interview with Dr. Turi. His website is drturi.com. Okay, we've just got some general questions we're finishing up on. Dr. Turi, as life evolves, it grows. Humans grow from a baby to an adult. Plants grow from a seed. Are you familiar with the expanding Earth model? And if so, what do you think of it, especially quick growth and cataclysmic growth?
Well, we are in a time that is regulated by the over-speedy planet of Uranus, which is what Art Bell called the lightning, the quickening, if I may use those words. And it seems to be humanity is in a void of course, if you understand that word, which means when the moon is about to change sign, the moon get the characteristics of the two signs at the same times. So this is where humanity is at, between the deceiving religious Pisces energy, which and its relationship for the last 2,000 years, and the next 2,000 years, which are going to be extraordinarily fast in terms of all sorts of humans' accomplishments. So I would go for the speedy energy, as far as I understand it. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Turi. We've got another question from Patrick. Patrick, can you ask your question of Dr. Turi, please?
Yes, Dr. Turi, somewhere in your writings you state that the big problem we have in the world nowadays is that organized religions want to convert the rest of the world to their particular faith, with over 875 different denominations with their variety of deities, prophets, and gurus. You say it's like a huge sewer with different pipes, and at the end we all drown into stupidity, hate, fear, ignorance, terrorism, unthinkable pain, horrendous suffering, wars, and ultimately death. No intelligent man should endorse, promote, or support anything that, in the end, kills. Now, your stance initially reminds me of a Gnostic, one that recognizes the Abrahamic religions as controlling and dogmatic in nature. Can you share with us your sense of God, spirituality, and your understanding of where we are and where we came from?
Sure, but basically you have to remember one thing. God never came down and wrote no books. Okay, men created those 875 different denominations. Then, furthermore, the true ministry of Jesus, when he was walking the street of Israel, was very celestial oriented. When he was trying to introduce to us to our Father in the heavens, much of his teaching were not the biblical nonsense, archaic stuff that has been written and rewritten to facilitate power to the controlling, politically oriented churches of the beginning days. So when you look at it, the fact is Jesus' ministry was completely eradicated, changes and altered to fit the political purpose of what became the Vatican and any other major established religion. Now listen to this. The first very words in the Bible is 3 wise men following a star. Those three wise men or king were nothing else than astrologers. Okay? They knew that Jesus had the potential and the UCI, because they could read the stars during those days, to become a leader of an age, which was the age of Pisces. But when you control the source of information, you happen to control that person's entire destiny. And 2,000 years of fiasco made by man's folly and imagination, using the instinct of conservation, which means you're going to go to hell if you don't fear God, is the best way for people to congregate in one specific religion. So the fact of the matter is, when you look at the flag of the Muslims, what you have is the sun and the moon, which depict that the Arabs were the first one to really had a good hand on astrology. And again, when those three wise men, which is the beginning of the Bible, were following the stars to the birth of Christ, tells you much more than what you really are allowed to accept or perceive, because the entire ministry of Jesus was changed to fit certain people. That is a vision, that is an information that is challenging every single book that were ever written. When you look at Asia, Asia is particularly dominated by the dragon. Everything about Asia is the dragon. The fact of the matter, the true values and the power of the dragon is totally obliterated in Asia. None of the Asiatic people knows about the dragon's head and the dragon's tail. The legacy, of course, is the Chinese sign of the zodiac. This universal wisdom has been stolen from humanity and replaced by deceiving archaic religious material that has nothing to do with God himself. God created the stars and the heavens to be used as signs. He gave them to us for interpretation so that we may lead a more productive and safe life. That is my message. And this is when in the future, finally, humanity will gain enough cosmic consciousness. When humanity uses the stars and the heavens and understand the voice and see God in action through his divinity, then this world will reach peace and happiness and harmony for us, all of us. So as far as religions I'm concerned, I am very, very cold. The first time I entered a church, I was about, 5 years old, and I ran out like you would never believe, because nobody told me what I was going to see inside. As soon as I walk in this cold, smelly dump area, I walk into the subconscious, I walk into deception, I walk into Neptune's world, and I saw this man on a cross dying full of blood. Imagine for a 5-year-old what type of information my subconscious registered that day. I walk out and I said to the teacher who was forcing us to go to church to learn about the Bible, I told him, I don't want to go there. I don't like it. I don't feel good. I don't want to ever be there again. Then he says to me, you're going to go to hell. And he points between his feet. I look at him and says, I heard hell is hot. Hell is above. And I point the sun. He said, why would you say that? I said, because it's hot. Already at 5 years old, I had more common sense than that teacher was trying to lead me to swallow the Bible. But America was built upon puritanical principle. America is all based upon in God we trust. And the sad reality is America does not know the God they so want to trust, because they cannot see him and they cannot hear him in action the way my student and I do. And that is part of my mission, to raise that cosmic consciousness and allow everybody to finally see a God in full action through his celestial identity and God is not going to send you to hell because you're already in hell. You're in a world of ignorance, stupidity, and fears. And that is hell, because knowledge is power and ignorance is evil, and that's where the evil and Satan reside, in ignorance. Sorry, I'm passionate again.
No, thank you. Your candor comes through in your newsletters as well as your interviews. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Dr. Turi, the cover of your autobiography, Beyond the Secret, includes a number of interesting symbols. Could you share with us the story of the artwork and maybe walk us through any meaning you might have included in the different symbols, including the moon and the UFO?
Oh, my gosh.
Bear with me for anyone who hasn't bought the book. There's an all-seeing eye with a lightning bolt. And I'm curious whether the bolt is coming in or going out.
Well, first of all, you're going to bring me back to when I was, the first time I drew that, I must have been about 11 or 10 years old. I drew this nonstop when I was a kid. Then later on in life, I realized that the colon is your spinal cord. It's your spine. The serpent is your spinal cord. Excuse me. And the triangle and the lightning represent the third eye, and of course the UFO on the tail of the dragon came afterwards, and the lightning came also afterwards. It dictates that I did gather the information from the superconscious in time and space. There is another artwork that I designed in my house, and that is a hand which is chained to the world, and the hand is reaching towards the heavens. That's another artwork that I have somewhere. But that is, to the best of my memory, I did that. I was pretty young, and I decided to use that in my book, Beyond the Secret.
I saw that, and of course, there's a key on the side of the book inscribed with the word happiness. Can you share with us the key to happiness?
Well, the key is what it means to be human is to be found within the secrets of the cosmic codes. I'm telling you, once you understand your celestial identity, you get a good grasp of your idiosyncrasies, of your weaknesses, or your gifts, because no one is perfect. We all have good and bad. The human body is nothing else. It's split in two. You're balancing under two forces. You have two eyes, two arms, two legs, 2 feet. You're balancing between the yin and yang. You're balancing between the positive and the negative, or ignorance and wisdom. So when you look at it, building your cosmic consciousness will give you the keys, what it means to be human. The keys that science is categorically refusing to investigate. The very word science means also honoring the word investigation. As much as the cops, a good detective, a good cop should investigate, and have been for years giving exact date when cops get killed, and blaming NASA executive, the police executive, calling them criminals for killing their cops. But regardless how much I express myself intelligently, aggressively, I still don't get no response. And I have a secret mailing list that is regularly sending email to the FBI, to the CIA, to people that are very highly placed in our society, in the government area, people also like George Norrie, people that you watch on TV regularly. That secret mailing list is made of a very, very powerful people that have the option to help Dr. Turi. They have the position, they have the money, they have the position, and they still are reluctant because they all fear the word ridicule. And again, you know what? It's just a matter of time before they finally accept the reality of what I'm trying to pass on. And it may take one miracle, one of them to finally help me. Then my voice will go out there in a big way And then from there, this type of show will regenerate people's spirits. Instead of feeling dead after a show, they feel with a sense of hopes and faith into the future. And when they are guided properly to use the superconscious at their advantage and control their thought and stop being evil, then they're going to see the result in their life as quick as tomorrow. As simple as that. Try for the next 2 hours not to feel evil. I guarantee you that it'll be impossible for you not to let the negative thought enter your mind. It's a matter of training. We are a machine of habit. If you do things 1, 2, or 3 times like smoking or drinking, you're going to hook yourself. Humans are a machine of habits. We have been trained. We're constantly harassed. We are looking endlessly to dysfunctional television. We are hearing dysfunctional radio. We've got a bunch of talking heads with absolutely no cosmic consciousness, furthering humanity downfall, depleting the human spirit, degrading the human spirit at the speed of light. And this is why it's important to realize you don't have to buy into that. And you could train yourself, okay, I'm going to make sure within the next 5 minutes I will not let one single negative thought enter in my mind. I tell you what, it's going to take you serious work to do so. But you are going to train yourself to the point where you are going to magnetize yourself with so much positive energy that that energy has now an option to be channeled towards a specific goal. What's the point to say, okay, I want to be very rich, but man, I have to pay for this, I have to pay for that, and this, and so you already are killing the seed you are supposed to make it grow with pure water, pure thoughts. So when I teach my student to use the superconscious at their advantage, or to understand the cosmic code so that they can gain the keys of what it means to be human, it brings a hell of a lot of peace to your inner being. And you have to gather the tools. I have the tools.
Thank you for that. It sounds like the key to happiness is focusing on things that make you happy. Exactly.
You know, when it comes to education, for example, you can take your child to school. This child has an incredible task ahead of him. He has to swallow 2,000 years of human evolution in a few years. So those children are harassed. Of course, it's okay. You have to teach them algebra, geography, history, the art, and science. You have to teach all these kids every single thing, that we give them the education that they will need to succeed. I understand that. But in the curriculum, there is something so drastically important that is missing, and that is, who is there in any of these college or university to teach those children who they are, how they correspond to God's celestial design. So, not having the option to regenerate the spirit, again, subconsciously, those kids will become murderers. They will choose the school. They will go there. They start to kill everybody. They kill the schoolmaster, the teacher, their friend, and then finally they will swallow a bullet themselves. That is a desperate cry for them to saying to their parents and their teachers, something very important is missing. Who am I? Who is there to tell me who I am, where I come from, where I'm supposed to go? Those kids have no grounding on the spiritual side. Of course, they have religion, but that's going to confuse them even more. Plus, this new generation, they are not buying into religion like the old generation. Each generation is different. You have the death wish generation born with Pluto and Scorpio. Those kids regenerate sex, trauma, and so there is such a lack of spiritual values that are missing. Now, you probably heard of Nowhere, this group which has created this movie I can't remember the title there. I think it's Nowhere, Going to Nowhere. Somebody can help me maybe. It's a movie that is now going in every college, university, going nowhere or something. Anyway, I have tried to reach those people. I have tried to explain to them the importance of bringing spirituality and to bring astropsychology as part of the curriculum in the teaching department. And none of these people have ever answered any of my emails. This is tragic because now the children are deprived of information. And if they don't regenerate, they're going to kill themselves and kill more kids. And you could be sure there will be more kids killing other kids because they don't regenerate. Do I make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Louis. We have a question from Free Spirit.
Yes, Dr. Turi. Going back to your cancer a little bit, you stated that on an interview that you felt your cancer was a result of unresolved anger at the world.
You bet. First of all, you have to remember, when I was at the Royal School of Music in London, in England, I was also a breakfast chef. So I ate, I don't know how many pigs I ate, and eggs, and bacons, and sausages. So I already plugged my arteries for at least 20 years on a steady base every single day. So you have to be careful of what you ingest. That's the physical part of poisoning your body with food, because you are what you eat. But you have to be very cautious. And you can also suffer quoted cancer, spiritual cancer, when you nurture fears or anger. These are human emotions that are very destructive for the well-being of your spirit. I used to take myself so seriously when I was trying to explain to people what the stars were about, what the cosmic code was about, and knowing that they couldn't get it, I was going insane. Then I turned the TV, I turned the radio, and I hear all this apocalyptic promoter, all this conspiracy talking head. The next thing you know, I am here. I'm saying, my gosh, you guys are crazy. You are killing this world. You are misusing the subconscious. You're not even conscious of what you're doing to the fate of humanity. And that used to get straight to my heart. And each time that energy used to go right in my gut. That's exactly what the cancer was. So when you look at it physically and spiritually, you can alter, again, I say it again, alter the atomic structure of your body. That's why it's so very important. Against yourself or against the world, do not nurture negative thought. Do not feed evil. Do I answer you?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Okay, Dr. Turi. I think we have one more question from Sandra. Sandra.
Okay.
Well, I have a few questions, to be honest with you.
That's okay, Sandra. Go ahead, honey.
One of the questions I have, are you familiar with the book of Abramelin the Mage that's in the Bibliothèque over in Paris? The original was written, I believe, in 1458.
Well, let me tell you the truth, honey. I am a writer. I write faster with 2 fingers than what you can read, and I never took a course in writing, and I never read anything. I don't have time to read. What I do, I look at the title, I look at the front, and I look at the back, and I open the book in the middle, and I read just a few sentences. And very much all the time, I close the book. That may sound whatever you want, but you ask me a question, and I'm responding to the best of my honesty. I do not read any material, which is probably a weakness because I probably would learn a few other things, but that's the way I was designed to talk, to communicate, to channel, and to pass on information. I guess I have no time to read. Could put that as a good excuse to him. Sorry. So, do you have another question?
You've mentioned how the Mercury retrograde with the Nostradamus method is different than the one that we traditionally use now.
Mm-hmm.
Retrograde that is used by most people. It ended last Saturday. Can you tell us how long this Aries retrograde Mercury is going to go through the Nostradamus method?
Well, at the beginning, I used to follow those dates, following the ephemeris or any astrological software. Then I realized that after the date, there was still more Mercury retrograde type of news, like a chain reaction accident, or as I said earlier, NASA rescheduled the launch of the shuttle, which is also a Mercury retrograde motion, accident, all sorts of things. So I thought I might have to do a little research on that. And then I realized that the modern astrology used the Julian calendar, but Julius Caesar didn't want these politicians to be in control and in power for too long. So he actually changed the calendar. And by changing the calendar, he also upset the housing system and the timing of the planet motions. So when Mercury is retrograde, if you follow those Julian dates, not completely off, but it is off. So in my book Moon Power, sometimes I go to a week or a week and a half before, or a week and a half after the traditionally given dates, because even my software, which is based upon the Julian calendar, could also be faulty, so to speak. So I have to use my intuition by being conscious of what's happening. And the fact is, today, NASA rescheduled the launch of the shuttle. So if you understand the dynamics of what the Mercury retrograde is all about, then you have to actually realize that Mercury is still retrograde. Now, I can tell you Mercury is still retrograde because yesterday my wife and I, we went to the lake and we hit a rock. So Mercury was transportation. Anything that moves got to be stopped. And my boat was stopped in the middle of the lake, and I managed to motor back very, very slowly. So you have, if you know your turf in astrology and what Mercury retrograde means, you will realize that we are still into this Mercury retrograde motion, which is perfect when you dwell with the spirit, because it allows you to introvertly look deeper into yourself. And when Mercury is retrograde, it allows you also to spiritually and psychically connect with anybody dwelling with the spirit. So everything is working in our favor because I fully believe Mercury is still retrograde.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And I have one last question. Without knowing your terminology as well as I should, you explained how knowing someone's chart gives you information on where they're coming from. Could you tell us filters you have that come from your chart that you have to deal with in giving information out to the world?
You might have to repeat that question. Is it from my chart or your chart?
Well, you have our chart on how we're perceiving, but you would also have your chart on how you're presenting to where
okay.
It would be.
Okay. Well, first of all, I was born in February, okay? And I was born February 26th. So you are not just one sun sign. You are every single sign of the zodiac each time you flip into a different house. Do I make sense?
Yes.
Now, you have only 6 signs of the zodiac. You don't have 12. You have only 6. And the opposite on one sign creates the other side. So if for example, you don't know me and you see me on stage, you will intuitively think, well, Dr. Turi must be a Leo, correct? Yes or no? Because Leo rules the stage and ego and whatever it is. So you present yourself on the other side of the sign that you were born in. So if you are a Cancer, you present yourself to the world as a Capricorn. If you are an Aquarius, you present yourself to the world as a Leo. If you are a Pisces, you present yourself to the world as a picky, fussy Virgo. If you are an Aries, you will present yourself as a Libra. And if you're a Libra like Lolly, then you will present yourself as a competitive, sometimes aggressive Aries. So my teaching are totally unique. So whatever you have learned in astrology is phenomenal, and you keep it, but you leave it outside, and then you add my teaching to whatever you have learned, and that increases drastically your repertoire of wisdom, and that's called astropsychology. Do I answer you?
Yes, you did. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Sandra.
Thank you, Dr. Turi. As we close this interview, we just wanted to see if you had any final thoughts you wanted to share with us and our forum members and the world.
Well, basically, the first thing I want to do is, Jill, is to thank you and to thanks warmly all the attendants here today, because your questions have helped me to even dig deeper into me. So, Lolly, Fox, Fritz Spirit, Patrick, and Sandra, one more time, thank you so much for your very interesting question. I'd like to finish by repeating one more time, and I did that all along tonight. Please do not feed evil. Work with me, because we have been given a chance to control the outcome of our destiny. We are not doomed. So the idea with my work is to see and hear God in action through his divinity and his celestial creation. That is something that Jesus was trying to teach us, and sad enough was taken away from humanity. And my mission is to free humanity from ignorance and from fears and raise their cosmic consciousness. One more time, God bless you, all of you, for helping me and passing on my message to the world.
Well, thank you for your time tonight, Dr. Turi. Merci. I hope it's been enjoyable for you, as it has been for us. If not, ma chance. Bad luck, sir. Your mission statement states that your goal is to free humanity from fears and reintroduce God's universal face, science, and cosmic tools. The French writer Antoine de Saint-Exupéry said, "Your task is not to foresee the future, but to enable it." Sometimes mistaken for your unique and somewhat flamboyant French style, in the end, not only do you forecast the future, but you try to help people enable theirs by helping them to understand the cosmic code. On behalf of Fox and all the members of the Webbot Forum, thank you, Louis. May you and Tariana continue to live a good life and have many pies to come. Merci et au revoir.
Au revoir.
Merci, au revoir, Dr. Turi.
Well, that was beautiful. Thank you so much.